All right, so it's Jeremy and JP back out on Nonsuch. We're out here and we've got a bit of a rush. We don't have much time today, but we're
Yeah,
going to take a quick look at CahowCam 1 and Cam 2 to see who's home
yeah,
and see if we can answer some questions as to
yep,
what's going on.
yeah. It's the 26th of January, and so the return of the birds and egg laying is essentially done. All the birds that are going to return have returned. I've just been on one of the smaller nesting islands, and all the birds are back. Most of the eggs are fertile and well advanced. Some of the eggs are at least 3 weeks to 3.5 weeks along, and the chick is already, you can see the embryo moving inside. So we'll see. We should be able to confirm if CahowCam 2 is fertile and see how CahowCam 2 is doing, because that was laid 2.5 weeks before. So
CahowCam 1.
CahowCam 1, that's right. Yeah, it's 100
Let's just get going. Let's get down
165
there.
burrs.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to keep track of them now. So all of these we checked earlier in the week, and they all have birds back. Most of them are incubating fertile eggs. It's a large number. I'm not even sure. I'd have to go through my records to see how many of the eggs have been confirmed as fertile, but a larger number than last year so far, knock on wood.
This is JP. I'm wearing two hats today. One, my traditional Nonsuch expeditions, which I founded 15 plus years ago and started live streaming 14 plus years ago with the CahowCam 1 system here. And my other hat today is BioQuest, in which I've co-founded, and we're basically leveraging genomics to assist with conservation, and in this case to deal with Bermuda's critically endangered Bermuda petrel and see how we can use genomics to help with that. And we've already done the reference genome. We're starting to do a population study, and we have a very unique circumstance, as in we have one of the rarest species on the planet where Jeremy has hands-on data from pretty well the entire species through doing these types of nest checks. So we have that as a baseline, on top of which we're going to be able to layer genomics population study and really find out what happens when a species such as this goes through a bottleneck, a near extinction event, and somehow survives, and what happens to the genome through that process. Not so much in this nest here, although there are some questions there, but when we get to CahowCam 2, there's some interesting other questions that genomics is going to help us answer.
Now, this egg on the last check did have what we call a dimple crack in it, which means that at some point a rock, or perhaps it's when they're jostling about arguing who's going to incubate the egg, where a small 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter patch of shell was pushed in slightly. That doesn't have to be fatal to the developing embryo inside. It often is, but we've actually we've used Carla Marquardt's experience with raising literally thousands of endangered parrots and macaws and such like that, and found out the best way to treat that is just to put a layer of clear nail polish over it. It evaporates so quickly, there's nothing that goes into the egg, and it seals the egg so that moisture from inside the egg is not being lost, which of course will ultimately be fatal to the developing embryo. It's almost half of eggs we treat this way survive. So if we hadn't done this, it would have been a certainty that this egg would have failed, and failed quite quickly. So we'll check it. We'll see if the embryo is still developing well, and we'll go from there. And we'll check the parent. Both parents are in the nest, but it's possible one has gone into the entrance tunnel. They're both together still. Okay. So I'm going to put one in here. Okay. He went? Okay. Okay. No problem. All right. So I'm going to take a look. Yeah, see, here's the dimple crack right here. You can see it's quite large. It's actually like a double one. It seems to be holding. So the key thing before I even weigh and measure it is to check and see if we still have a fertile embryo in there. Let's see.
What Jeremy is doing is shining a light on the side of the egg in the darkness of the burrow. So you can see through the shell, and you can see movement within the egg if it's still fertile.
It's failed. It's failed. Yeah, so I think, you know, it's something, it happens. This pair seems to produce a chick every other year, and sure enough, last year they produced a beautiful chick. Year before they failed, and this year, unfortunately, and almost certainly due to the crack. You can see the embryo was developing. There are still some remnant veins and such there, but they're breaking down, and there's no embryo in the center of it anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, folks, we can confirm that CahowCam 1 is not going to be producing an egg. What I will do, though, we've already measured the egg, so I'm just going to weigh it. Yeah, it's always sad when that happens, but, you know, it is a fact of life. These are wild. It's a wild species. It's a wild population, and although we'd love to see a happy ending every time, in nature that's very seldom the case. The fact that they generally produce a chick every other year is great, you know, and that means that they are, considering they can nest for 30 to 40 years, that means it's going to be, you know, still a productive pair. Let's see, so 74, so that's 54 grams, okay. Yeah, and so that's, we're doing a study on the development rate. At this point, nothing's going to happen except the egg will. It's just breaking down now. Yes. Oh no, you don't. Almost got away again. Sorry, sweetie. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. It's a shame because they always do a good job of raising the chick when they do have it. This one is the male. Right here, yeah, so the one JP's holding is the female. Okay, so I'm just going to get body weight and band number is E0197, and that's a bird I translocated to Nonsuch back in 2005. And they've been nesting here since 2009, 2010, and he's still fairly heavy. He's lost a lot of weight though, 362, so that'll be 342 minus the weight of the bag. He was about 442, so he is about 100 grams heavier when he first returned. Okay, so this is the female. That's good. I've only had her in hand once. And her band should be, she returned fairly recently, so she should actually be heavier than him. And her band number will be E0212. Yeah, she is. She's very heavy for a female. She's one of the heavier females in the whole population. Okay, so 380 exactly, so that means she's 360. Yeah, it's about 18 grams heavier than him. Okay, here we go. That big webbed foot. E0212, yep. So that is the female. So, yeah, it's sad. I was really hoping the egg might make it, but that was a very big dimple crack in it. When they're that big, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be able to, you know, bring it, because it's so long. It's almost 2 months they're incubating the egg. So, yeah, that's part of the reality of working with a critically endangered species. Yeah. There they are greeting each other. That's the greeting, what we call the puppy call. Saying, "You're back, thank God." That horrible man was back pulling us out of our nest. Yeah, but see, we wouldn't know. If we didn't carry out these checks, we would have no idea what was happening. We wouldn't know why it failed and everything, because generally what will happen with a failed egg, they'll keep trying to do it for another month or more, a month and a half, and eventually the egg will just break and collapse into bits, and we'll never know why it failed or at what point. And at least we know, haven't had it in hand. We did try that. We've had to do that with, I think, 2 other eggs in the population so far. They were much smaller cracks, so hopefully those will be successful. But the bigger the crack, the less likely it's going to survive. And that was as big a crack as I've seen. You know, that had actually grown in size to about 5 or 6 millimeters across. Usually if it's a millimeter or two, it's no problem, but that was a very big one. All right, well, let's move to CahowCam 2, R832, and hope that we have better news there. Let me just see if I can. Oh yes, we have a fertile egg, a very nice embryo showing about 7 to 8 days old. You want to take a look, see what a 7-day-old embryo looks like. Yeah, that's a really nice one. So hopefully it will make it through.